Alright, during the first unit, I decided to analyze How to Train Your Dragon, which is one of my all-time favorite movies. I learned so much in regards to the film while learning about storytelling at the same time. I definitely have a newfound, deeper appreciation for the film. So without further ado, I guess I'm gonna get into it. Alright, part one, Everything is a Remix. How the film utilizes inspiration from others and makes something incredibly original. I was surprised to find that the 2010 DreamWorks film How to Train Your Dragon was not only inspired by the historical/medieval era of Vikings and dragons, but actually loosely based on a book series by the same name. How to Train Your Dragon is a 2003 book series written by Cressida Cowell about the misadventures of Hiccup the Horrendous Haddock III. In one of the books, Hiccup must learn to properly train a dragon, as it is a rite of passage for all Viking boys. This differs from the movie quite a bit. Although the characters have the same names as those in the book, the story is different to say the least. The film paints the picture of an endless war between Vikings and dragonkind, with Hiccup unable or unwilling to kill a dragon and befriending Toothless the Night Fury, something that is unheard of in Viking history, let alone on the island of Berk. So here are some basic production notes. How to Train Your Dragon was released in 2010. It was produced by DreamWorks Animation. Directors were Chris Sanders and Dan DeBlois. Cast includes Jay Bruchal, America Ferrera, Craig Ferguson, Gerard Butler, Jonah Hill, TJ Miller, Kristen Wiig, and Christopher Mintz-Plasse. The score was done by John Powell, and awards include nominated for Best Animated Feature and Best Original Score by the Academy Awards. It won numerous Annie Awards, including Best Animated Feature, Best Character Animation, Best Directed in an Animated Feature, Best Music in an Animated Feature, Best Production Design in an Animated Feature, Best Voice Acting in an Animated Feature, and Best Writing in an Animated Feature. So this film is definitely a remix. It is a retelling of a classic story trope, unlikely friendships between man and beast. The story is then combined with other motifs such as the boy and his dog motif and the underdog story. The film also plays with the who am I conflict with the main character, and it plays with the motif of the strained father and son relationship. The unlikely friendship storyline, combined with all of the aforementioned familiar motifs above, are then transformed into a beautiful, emotional, original story. The story of unlikely friendship / boy and his dog can go as far back as to the beginning of humankind, when the first wolves were domesticated and the term man's best friend became a part of life. Stories similar to Call of the Wild, White Fang, Free Willy, Flipper, Alpha, Dragonheart, and countless others. The bond between man and beast is a classic tale, and one that can very easily, and has very easily, pulled on the heartstrings of viewers from all over. Relationships between people and animals are such a common thing / a universal trend. How to Train Your Dragon took that classic story and transformed it into an original tale. But the bond between Hiccup and Toothless in the film is so powerful because both characters are written so well. The film gives Toothless the dragon so much personality that the audience sometimes forget that he is a beast, which I believe so many pet owners often forget about in their own animal companions. And when it comes to figuring out whether this film is more novel or familiar, I think this film lands in the sweet spot right between novel and familiar. The familiar story is an unlikely friendship between boy and beast, which I said is a timeless story. You know, we think about White Fang or Free Willy, to countless other adored stories. It appeals to all kinds of people, pet owners, animal lovers, nostalgic childhood wonder fanatics. The idea of a boy befriending a dragon is one that can appeal to young children and adults. However, How to Train Your Dragon takes the familiar story trope and transforms it into a completely original telling that separates itself from other unlikely friendship tales, utilizing a fantastical Viking world where dragons are a part of the normal way of life, having the bond between the two characters blossom over the course of Hiccup being unable to kill Toothless and Toothless needing Hiccup to help him fly. The subplot of Hiccup's father searching for a way to rid Berk of dragons for good, and Hiccup discovering that the dragons serve an evil matriarch, taking advantage of the comical relief that the other Viking teens offer to the film, and the love story between Astrid, the fierce heroine, and Hiccup the nerd, all of these little additions to the story make it a beautiful, original novel telling of a classic tale. All right, so this is part 2, the archetypes, remembering and appreciating memorable characters. So to begin, our logline for the film is: on the island of Berk, Vikings and dragons have been at war with each other for generations. However, when Hiccup, the small son of the Viking chief, befriends the most dangerous and elusive dragon of all, he discovers that dragons may not be the savage beasts everyone thinks they are. So, to begin, Hiccup is the hero of the story, although at first he believes he must kill a dragon to earn the respect of his father and the Viking village. When he meets the Night Fury, later named Toothless, he, quote, sees himself in the dragon. He looked as frightened as I was. Hiccup learns that dragons are more than just savage beasts. Although he learns to care about dragons, he ultimately learns to have courage when he dares to befriend the beast as well as stand up to his dragon-hating father and village. He doesn't need to kill a dragon to prove himself. Hiccup's personality, his fears include disapproval, dragons in the beginning, disappointing his father, he fears for Toothless's life. His strengths include that he's highly intelligent, mechanically inclined, intuitive, curious, caring, and helpful. His weaknesses: he's physically small and weak, he's secretive. His dark side includes contemplating killing Toothless in the beginning, and later he may be willing to put his village in danger to prove that dragons may or may not be dangerous. And the things he admires in others includes curiosity, ambition to try new things out of the ordinary, things that get him into trouble. His curiosity, his impulsive tendencies, his ability to seemingly woo dragons. But Hiccup's inner conflict stems from what he's been raised to be, which is a rough and tumble dragon-slaying Viking. His inner conflict is even more personal, considering Hiccup's father, Stoic the Vast, is the chief of the Viking village and has spent his whole life searching for the dragon nest. There comes a time when Hiccup must comply with what his father and the village expect of him, or defy the expectations and pave a new road for himself and Vikings everywhere. So for our shadow, I think Hiccup's shadow is a combination between his father's pressure and his repressed inner Viking, Hiccup's inability to connect with his quote-unquote Viking side, in which dragon slaying runs through his blood. Hiccup is constantly reminded that he's different and will never be the Viking his father wants him to be. So who is the mentor, and why are they the mentor? So Gobber serves as Hiccup's mentor, with Hiccup taking on the position of Gobber's apprentice at a very young age. Gobber taught Hiccup everything he knows about being a blacksmith, working with, and constructing weapons and tools. So Gobber has given the gift of masterful skills in blacksmithing, as well as tips about fighting dragons, which Hiccup uses in a different way. Any helpful tips Gobber gives the young dragon trainers, Hiccup uses against a dragon and Viking common enemy, the Red Death. So two important threshold guardians I wanted to point out is the Red Death and Hiccup's father, Stoic the Vast. So what neurosis do they stand for in the hero? The wall between dragons and Vikings, the gap between finding common ground. While Stoic stands in between Hiccup getting through to the Viking village, for example, the scene where Hiccup tries to tame the monstrous nightmare in front of the entire village, and Stoic stops this from happening. And the Red Death, however, represents the bridge, a common enemy between dragons and Vikings. Dragons and Vikings unite to fight against her. So, what power does the hero gain as a result of this test? He gains the respect of his village, the unbreakable bond with Toothless, and the love and pride of his father. We are now at part 3, stages of the journey, a journey of friendship, family, courage, love, and trust. So here is just the film laid out in the Pixar format. So here is a layout of the story on the narrative arc. I noticed that in times of crisis or conflict, a common color scheme is centered around warm reds and oranges, as well as dark, gloomy grays, especially at the climax. In times of wonder or romance, for example, when Hiccup touches Toothless for the first time, or when Hiccup takes Astrid on a romantic flight, light creams with purple and pink undertones are shown. Deep blues and cyan is used to convey wonder. Though the film opens at night, the color scheme of the Viking environment still seems bleak and muted until the end, when Vikings and dragons have come together to create a colorful new world on top of a gray sky, as if they are leaving the bleak days behind and entering a new colorful world. So here are just 5 points of backstory made in the exposition that I think the audience needs to know for the story to be revealed. Number 1, Vikings versus dragons, an eternal battle that has gone on for generations. Number 2, Hiccup is the disappointing, scrawny, nerdy son of the fierce Viking chief who desperately wants to prove himself. Number 3, Hiccup is a blacksmith apprentice, giving him intense knowledge of all things metal and mechanical. Number 4, Hiccup is constantly getting himself into trouble because of how bad he is at trying to kill dragons. Number 5, the Night Fury is the most elusive dragon of all. So for the resurrection, what final ordeal of death and rebirth does your hero go through? What aspect of your hero is resurrected? After Hiccup falls into the fiery wreckage, Toothless falling after him, Stoic thinks that Hiccup has died. It is then revealed that Toothless caught him just in time, although Hiccup is unconscious and has lost a limb, later revealed to be his leg. Hiccup later awakes in his bedroom. Toothless is there to greet him. Hiccup has gone through a physical change. He now has a mechanical peg leg. Feeling a little uneasy, he leans on Toothless for support to walk to the door. As the walk towards the door, we see Hiccup's peg leg and Toothless's tail wave in front of the camera, creating a very emotional moment. They are one and the same. Hiccup is resurrected as a new, more confident young man with a new understanding of relying on a mechanical extremity, just like Toothless. Although his awkwardness and clumsiness are still intact, reminding us he is still the same Hiccup, just a little more mature and experienced. And then examine the character arc of your hero. Is it realistic growth or gradual changes? I think Hiccup's growth is gradual and timed really well. As his curiosity for dragons grows, so does his bond with Toothless, as well as his understanding of dragons in general. His new understanding slowly urges him to become more confident and adamant to do what he thinks is right. He goes from being afraid and tentative to confident and brave as his bond with Toothless grows. Hiccup grows through a physical change when he loses his leg and must learn to operate with a mechanical extremity, just like Toothless did throughout the film. This reinforces the idea the two are one and the same. Hiccup also becomes more confident towards the end and reassured in himself when he chats with the village and the other Viking teens at the end of the film. So for the return with the elixir, what is the elixir your hero brings back? So the elixir Hiccup brings home after his epic journey is the new shared understanding that dragons are more than just savage beasts. They are incredible, wonderful creatures that are better friends than they are foes. Berk becomes a Viking dragon paradise where the two species live in peace together. And then the next question, is your story worth telling? I think the story is definitely worth telling. Its messages include don't judge a book by its cover, and deep down we are all the same. It is a timeless story that is applicable to so many aspects of life and so many different people. The story itself isn't too complicated and has themes of trust, family, and friendship, and enough has been explained to make the story easy to follow and enjoyable. The film is definitely worthwhile. All right, so this is part 4, talking about narrative choices, a deeper dive into the beautiful creation of this film. In this section, I discuss 3 important decisions made by the filmmakers, specifically story, score, and shot. So the story is the first good choice the makers made. How to Train Your Dragon is a remix of the classic boy and his dog / unlikely friendship trope. The bond between a Viking boy and a dragon is so well executed in this film, with a combination of the time period, the history between the two species, a fictional, fantastical world, and 2 strongly developed, lovable characters. This is a very strong story that is directly in between familiar and novel. Sure, there have been other films like Aragon and Dragonheart. However, this film is set apart, with Hiccup being an incredibly relatable young boy who wants to fit in and prove himself to his father and village, and Toothless being a lovable, almost cat-like dragon that is full of humanistic qualities like sarcasm. The story is filled with action, love, courage, and friendship, all great qualities that are set up exceptionally well. So the filmmakers chose to have John Powell score the film. I'm a huge John Powell fan. He has scored over wonderful films such as Disney's Bolt and DreamWorks' Chicken Run. Powell has a gift for creating passionate, memorable memories that soar just as the characters do. For How to Train Your Dragon, Powell took advantage of the setting and characters, a small but tough Viking village on an island in the middle of nowhere. He used strong Celtic writing and melodies that have the Irish bells and whistles effects, using Irish penny whistles, drums, and bagpipes. Yet Powell didn't let this dominate the score. My favorite piece he wrote for the film comes when Hiccup is attempting to befriend Toothless in the ravine. The piece is called Forbidden Friendship, quite appropriately named. The piece is dominated by pit instruments like xylophones and bells, as well as a choir to create a musical feel of wonderment. The melody is heart-wrenching and almost brings tears to my eyes every time. Overall, Powell did a phenomenal job matching a sound to a story. Because a good portion of this film is set around a species of flying reptiles, I wasn't surprised that the choice of shot was so important in this film. Between epic Viking battles and beautiful, stomach-dropping flight scenes, the shots had to be methodically mapped out. The scene titled Test Drive is probably one of the most intense scenes. That has a lot to do with the combination of shots used to make the audience feel like they too are on a ride with Toothless and Hiccup. However, the most powerful and memorable shot comes from the scene titled Forbidden Friendship, when Hiccup touches Toothless for the first time. It is a wide shot that captures the frightened boy tentatively reaching out his hand, Toothless pressing his nose up against Hiccup's palm. The wild shot captures the two in an almost perfectly symmetrical view. It captures the moment when boy and beast become one perfectly and sends chills down the spine of the audience. From another shot, I don't think the scene would have been so powerful. So we are now at our conclusion. This has been a really enlightening first unit for me. At first, I became a bit overwhelmed when reading The Writer's Journey. There was just so much information on how to build a successful story, likable or memorable characters. It taught me one big lesson overall. Good storytelling takes time. No successful film or story was written in 10 minutes. Writers spend years looking over, revising, changing their work, characters, how they look and act, etc. However, time is worth it because just like humans, stories and characters grow over time. They become well-rounded, their personalities grow. During this unit, I found myself continuously returning to a story series of my own that I'm currently working on. You can see it here. I found myself digging deeper into how my characters act. I've changed a few of their looks, revised stories featuring them, and as a result, I believe they are becoming more and more real. The more I look at them and build them. Overall, this unit has taught me a very valuable lesson that I'm sure will mold me into a more proficient storyteller / creator in general. So that's the